Hello, hello, Glam and Grinders. Happy Monday. Today is a very special day. So we have an incredible guest on today. Rachel is traveling again. So it's going to be Glam and Grind with Jules, selves, Rach today. Rachel just sent me a picture of her glamming it up on Myrtle Beach. So she's got some work she's got to do there. Just landed last night. We're hoping that the Helen, I don't know, what are they called? Hurricanes aren't going to trap her in Myrtle Beach, but she sent me a nice picture by the beach and it looked like it was a pretty nice day. So sorry, Rach won't be on today, but we're going to have fun. We have an amazing guest. Her name is Lainie Love. Like, what a name, right? I mean, Hollywood. So she has such a cool background. First and foremost, she has a neurodivergent son, which I thought was really cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. She is an award-winning coach. She showed me her awards. Very cool. She is a spiritual psychological coach. She's going to tell you more about that. I'm not exactly sure about the wording, but I think it's called the spiritual psychological coach. She is a 2-time award-winning best-selling author. She is very much about helping her folks find their mission and just create a life that they love. And so we want to just extend a super warm welcome to Lainie Love today. And we welcome you into the studio today. Lainie, how are you?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful intro.
I see the sun nicely shining on you today, bringing in some great light there.
I love it. I feel like it's like the angels shining. Like, oh,
it's awesome. Yes, it gives you that bright Monday glow. So, yeah.
And I was just going to correct that I am an award-winning coach, but I am yet to be. I think you were foreshadowing for me.
I am manifesting always.
Author. I am a 2-time best-selling author.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be award-winning. So there's some manifestation around that. But 2 times best-selling author, I feel like that's an award-winning author. Come on, right?
It's true. Well, and I do have an award. So, and you know what? I do have an award for my first book, but it's not published yet. So it feels kind of
premature, but it's okay. It's coming. We're foreshadowing. We're forecasting. We're going to manifest this award for both books now.
Thank you.
There you go. So, okay, Lainie, let's talk a little bit about what you do.
What do I do? Well, I'm a coach, which I was a reluctant coach. Not that coaching isn't amazing and a wonderful industry, because it is. I just never thought that I wanted to be one. I always wanted to be like a healer or a teacher or something white coatish, as I thought growing up. We're just talking about when we were growing up. I grew up in the 80s, so that I wanted to be something like really respectable. And I had a single mom with 4 kids, and so we didn't grow up very affluent. We grew up kind of struggling. So I didn't also want to have that experience of struggling. So I thought if I went like very academic route and was respectable, then I would have the life.
Yes, very similarly. I don't, all that you just said, ditto over here, except 2 kids, not 4, single mom, less than, I would say, middle to lower income level immigrant. I was first generation Canadian, but similarly, I was a 70s kid. I know, don't tell anyone, guys. But, brought up in the 80s for sure. And the whole idea around our social status and our familial background was like, you can be a doctor or a lawyer. If you want to be anything that's going to make you money and get you out of working like the 3 jobs and, just hustling and grinding all the time, or, you have to be an entrepreneur, but you need money to do that. Right. So very similarly, that grind and that like desire to do something with a white coat. I actually went into law school, hated it, horribly hated it. I wanted to be a teacher. I just naturally was an information seeker and a learner. Like, just that's part of who I am. And so just really, resounded, I guess, with me, your story. And so, so tell me a little bit about how you got out of that sort of mind grind.
when I went to university and I studied science, I just felt like none of the answers that I was looking for were met. And just like before that, after high school, I finished high school a half year early. We had grade 13 where I'm from in Canada.
Oh my gosh, I'm from Canada, and we had grade 13, and I did my OACs half a year early. That is so crazy. Where are you from?
I was born in Winnipeg, but I grew up in
I just took a picture of us because I was like, this is so cool. Born in Winnipeg. Okay.
Yeah. Grew up in Ottawa.
Funny. So I am from Windsor.
Last year, I think. You're from Windsor.
I am. I went to school in Toronto, though.
Okay. And
like university. I did a little bit in Europe, but in Canada, I did a stint at York for part of my schooling. And so, but I actually partied a lot in Hull. So you will understand all the things, right? So my friends from Perth and New Liskeard and out there, we all partied in Hull because you had to be, young.
18.
You could be younger than the rest of Canada. So this is too funny, but yeah. So Canadian girl, I love you already. That's amazing. Okay, so did you grow up in Ottawa then? Or where did you?
I grew up mostly in Ottawa. Yeah, most of my growing up was done there. But after I finished OAC, grade 13 in Ontario, Canada, which does not exist anymore, I moved to Taipei, Taiwan.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so tell me, what did you do in Taiwan?
Oh my goodness. I
moved to Europe instead.
Europe is also amazing, and I've lived there. I feel like we have
me too
parallel lives because
so crazy. I went to Taiwan, but I went to Thailand. I guess is that Taiwan? I don't know. I went to Thailand. Yes, not Taiwan, but only for a visit. So I need to know all the things. What did you do? What was your Taiwan trip about? Like when you left Canada, what was your mission?
Well, my dad still lives actually in Taiwan with his wife of, 30 years, I want to say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they moved there. She was originally born in Taiwan and then lived in Toronto. She grew up in Toronto, and that's where she and my dad met. And they moved back to Taiwan, and my dad said, when you finish high school, my gift to you will be a plane tickets to Taiwan, and you can come and stay here. So I did that, and I did all the things. I worked for Bungee International, so I would hook you up go bungee jumping.
That's so cool.
Doing all the straps and getting you prepped and ready. I taught English all the way from preschool to adults. And I also got a fashion model. I
did not fashion model. I'm 5 feet, but I did teach English in Europe to Pari Oportunidad, so like NATO folks and stuff, which was cool, but definitely not as cool as a fashion model. No.
Well, I thought it would be cool, but it's not. I don't have like that. I want to say more of like the natural physique. I was young and tall, and I felt like it took a lot of work for me to fit into the mold. Mm-hmm. And which was fine that I even got that opportunity.
Yeah. So that was in Taiwan?
Yes, that was in Taiwan.
Cool.
This is a long time ago.
It's okay.
25 years ago, people.
So after your stint in Taiwan, kind of having fun, bungee jumping, modeling, what happened after that?
And then I moved to Texas, to El Paso, Texas, where my mom was with my little brother and sister.
Okay.
And
so she moved from Canada to the States.
She had moved several years previous. So I was still in high school when she moved away.
Okay.
I was, I think, 15 when she moved to the States. So I've been on my own since I was 17.
Wow.
I was finishing my last year of high school, OAC.
That's crazy.
So I was in El Paso, Texas, which was a very, very different place to be. And I did some fun things there. I did nude modeling for artists.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting.
That was interesting. Talk about, letting go. You're naked.
Yeah. My friend actually is in art school here. Well, my friend's daughter, and she just did a bunch of like art with nudes from they would get them and they'd come to the university and she'd have to like do her art around them. But she said it was a really super cool experience. So
it is, especially coming from like high fashion and that world there. I thought I was under scrutiny there, but then you go into the art studio and you're under scrutiny in a completely different way, but like a softer way, but you're naked.
Anatomically though.
Yeah. And then they put spotlights on you.
Yeah.
So you're in a bright room, and then insult to injury, spotlights to create different shadows.
Oh yeah. So to make sure that every single crease and bump are recognizable. Lovely.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Such a great confidence booster, I'm sure.
It was actually, it really was, especially after the contrast of being for a very short period of time in the modeling world. I'm grateful that I had that contrast, because it really put things into perspective in a really healthy way for me.
Awesome. And so after that, what sort of give me the timeline of how you got to where you're at now?
So fast forward, because there's lots to go through,
in between,
lots to cover in between. But basically, the journey is like most people that come from chaotic backgrounds. They're seeking healing within themselves. Mm-hmm. And I also have that same like curious spirit and a natural teacher. And I'm always studying, I'm always learning, I'm always growing, just because I need to, I want to, I love learning. So I was pursuing healing for myself, but I was also pursuing healing because I was just curious about the subject and all the different amazing modalities that there are. So I started with more of a Western idea, but I was always really open to the alternatives, because I did have a young mama who was into like Wicca, in the 80s. Like everything was so much more open. And so I was learning about angels and spells and rituals. I had that within my awareness from a young age, but I also went to Bible school, and I had, a pretty... not religious grandparents, but they went to church every Sunday, so we'd have to.
Yeah, so pretty religious. Yeah.
Yes, I would be dressed and going to church.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of different influences, like many of us. So I thought that Western science was the way to go, and although there's a lot of cool things about allopathic medicine, I wasn't finding the answers that I was looking for. And I had found more of those when I lived in Taiwan, and I had to go to the doctors there for something. And I found the whole process really fascinating, because it was very different than going to the doctors in Canada. And right. I really love the question.
Much more, I would say, non-Western.
Yeah, just for instance, if you have a headache, it's like, well, where is your headache? What's the intensity? What time do you have it? What makes it worse? And like, there was like 10 qualifying questions just for a headache.
And you're like, I just have a headache.
Well, it's amazing though. I thought that was really fascinating, because what are you looking for from asking those 10 questions, right?
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like, oh, you have a headache. So I found that very, very fascinating. And so when I came back to study science, I just felt like, I'm not getting, I want those extra questions. I want those, well, what's this, and let's talk about it. So after university, I worked in the corporate world for a little bit, and then I went back to school and I studied shiatsu at college. And that was amazing because it was 40 hours a week of education, and it was a lot of hands-on. And we studied traditional Chinese medicine as well as physiology, anatomy, and bioethics. And it was a very robust program. And I really loved the balance between the Eastern and Western. And then that just took me on a little bit of a different journey. I studied with different masters. I got really interested in energy and studied with different world-renowned masters and studied energy medicine. And then the more I learned about that, the more I got interested also in the mind and the emotions and how do all those layers, going back to my like original interest or peak of curiosity, which is like the why. And so then that starts to incorporate all the different layers that we are as human beings.
Wow, that's a lot. So many questions around that too. But I want you to get to sort of what you do with your clients to find that why or their mission, or how do you unpack what they need to maybe unpack? Is it unpacking, or is it adding, or is it seeking, or is it gentle intrusion? Like, what is the process, I guess? Because I was on I think it was your website or one of your socials, and a lot of the comments that of folks you worked with were like, well, we manifested the man of my dreams, or we were able to manifest the through working with Lainie, I found my career, or whatever, right? Those types of things. So how do you, I guess, punch the holes to get to there, or are there already holes and you're filling? Like, which way does this go, or is it a bunch of different things?
It's all of the things, but it's actually pretty simple. So I studied for years and years all of these different modalities to kind of learn that everything's the same. Like for the most part, okay. for the School for Dummies version, which are great books because they just simplify everything for us, is we have many different versions of ourselves, which we know even like day to day. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I'm a friend, I'm all of these different things. Well, we have all these layers. We have the emotional layer, we have the spiritual layer, the physical layer, the mind layer, the psychological layer. Like, we have all these layers to ourselves. And so we get to work on all of them. And that's what we overlook is all of those layers and think, well, I did that, so it's not working, or it must be fine.
Yeah, like NLP, we've done that. We've done unblocking. We've done this. Like, we've had a lot of guests on that do NLP, breath work, modalities that you were mentioning, right? Of healing and or extricating trauma, I guess, things like that. And so what is different about working with you, and why would someone seek an energy healer or a spiritual psychologist?
Okay, well, I have that background too. I am a rapid transformational therapist also. And that's working mostly with the mind. So that's a form of hypnotherapy developed by Marissa Peer, who is a world famous hypnotherapist. And that incorporates NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, neuroscience. It's a really wonderful modality. So that's just layering into that education that I was pursuing and trying to find all the answers. And what I found is that many of the modalities are all incorporating sort of the same kind of thing, but just in its own way. So you're talking about like NLP, and you're talking about breath work. Amazing. Isn't it wonderful to know that everything works? But just as maybe you are an audio learner and I'm a visual learner, I'm going to go for the modality that works for you, in alignment with me and the way that I like to perceive the world or interact with the world. Like,
I love the idea of a lot of these modalities, but I am really anxious as a human. And so breath work, like, I can't do yoga or breath work. It like really makes me uncomfortable, like crawling out of my skin, not because I am worried about what it will bring. I just hate the thinking about the things that should be on automatic, like breath, like, so even talking about it makes me like freaked out. So I feel like it's true. Some modalities like might work for folks. Like the NLP, I feel like works better for me than the breath work stuff. The breath work, it works. I like it, but I have to be really quick and concise and efficient with it. I can't have a long breath work thing. Like, so it's interesting how, I don't know, how things work and what doesn't work based on maybe your personality and your own energy level, right? Which I had to work through because I was like, why am I stressing out about yoga? Everyone's saying yoga is so calming. And I'm like, it drives me crazy, And finally I had a yoga instructor. She's like, because your energy frequency is too high. Like you have this really super high energy frequency and it doesn't vibe with who you are. And so you're pushing constantly against your natural energy. She's like, so you're making this way harder on yourself, like just because you're naturally just programmed like that. So I feel like working on those things helps you, but if there's easier modalities to get to the same result, like why are you going to go with one that's going to continue to butt up against you? I don't know. You might have another thought about that.
No, I'm right there with you. Well, you can go either way, but how wonderful is it that we're all different? Mm-hmm. And we're not all meant to be the same, and there isn't a one fits all anything. And that's the beauty, that's the diversity of what it is to be a human. We're here to create, we're here to experience, and we're here to like freely express who we are. And you're not meant to be me, and I'm not meant to be you, and you're meant to be high energy and be really attracted to whatever it is that you're attracted to, because you're of the validity of the experience. And that's why we're here. So that's incorporating like the spiritual element. And then if I was going to look at it from another lens, I could be like, okay, well, what is some trauma maybe that we could work through?
For sure. That's the NLP side. She's always like, okay, well, this is why, you don't think you're enough and you don't think you're ever doing enough. And, all the things.
It's possible that that's there. It's possible to work through those things. So both things can be true at the same time. And that is amazing. And that provides us with so much different variety. So you're not doing it wrong. Whatever it is that you're doing it great. But I'm going to also correct that statement, and you're not doing it wrong, is we could be doing it wrong because I did it wrong for
a while,
for a long time, and maybe not wrong. But
there probably are better ways, right? Yeah. For everyone, right? So I do believe, I agree with you on that fact. Like I think we always are naturally inclined to do what's easiest and less uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And so obviously I'm like, that makes me uncomfortable. I'm just going to go with this one. That's much easier to get to. But I don't know if you get as deep going easy, right? And so like you said, there's probably better ways to do some of that. So like, let's walk through, someone is interested in what you're doing, Lainie, and they're like, okay, I've tried NLP, I've tried some modalities. I just don't feel like I'm getting the whole package. They come to you. What does that look like?
Well, first we just look at like most of the reasons why we're not getting the results that we want is because we are tricking ourselves out of getting the results. And I did that to myself for so long in that but I know that, but I've done it. I've done that. I know that. Well, you haven't, because if you did, you would be getting the results. So we think because we know something, well, I've done that 5 times, so I know it, or I've read 20 books on that, so I know it. There's a big, big difference between having some experience of something or some knowledge about a particular subject and actually having done the work. Mm-hmm. So I feel like most people are missing that. So when people come to me, it's like, oh, I've been working with this person for however many years, and I got some results, but I haven't been for a long time, or I feel like I should be here because I've been working on this for this long, and we've been fooling ourselves. So there's a lot.
So when you say we've been fooling ourselves, give me some ideas around like, what does that mean? Does that mean we are talking to ourselves, either like making ourselves believe we've done the work, or are we truly believing we've done the work? Like what do you mean by that, I guess?
I think both. I think both, and that we think that we have. Well, I've been working, why don't I have this yet? I have been doing this for 10 years. I've done this, and this. I've done everything. How many people can say that in their minds? I know
Lots.
Me
Yeah.
putting my hand up, but I've done everything. But okay, first of all, you haven't done everything. So really be mindful of what your language is. And secondly, did you actually do it? Did you actually do it? Okay, well, I can buy a membership to the gym. I can read about the plan that I want to do, and I can pay for that for a couple of months. But did I actually go? No, I didn't. So, or maybe I went and I used a couple of the machines,
right. Or went for like half the time, or
Or-
3
Yes.
days a week versus consistent, or went for a month and stopped for 6 months, because I'm known to do that.
Yes.
What about, so you said something about basically kind of, I'm writing notes too, but going through with these folks, getting them to their ultimate self, I guess, like by doing this work.
Yeah.
So they've been working with NLP, they've been doing shiatsu, they've been doing all kinds of things to kind of get these breakthroughs and try to become their ultimate self, right? I mean, that's the goal, I think, is to become your ultimate self. What are some of the challenges that you see a lot about why people don't achieve ultimate self, besides not doing the work? Because obviously, if you're not doing the work, you're not going to get there. But or folks that think they're doing the work, I guess that's the issue right there, right? How do you get them to do the work then? How do you change that mindset? How do you get them to their ultimate self? What are the things that you do that you think work over just maybe single modality training?
I don't want to diminish anything. I mean, I'd love to toot my own horn and say like how amazing I am and come and work with me. And yes, do that. And yes, I am. And like everything does work. It's just you get to learn yourself about what is going to work at what time. And that's something that people are unwilling to actually do. We're not actually willing to get to know ourselves and ask ourselves questions and sit with ourselves. It's such a strange phenomenon, but it's really the truth. Is most people, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, really, people that even though they've come to me and they've been doing the work, they've been working with people, working on themselves for 10 plus years. What do you want? Most people don't actually even know what they want. Now, they give me an answer a lot of the time, but
is it really what they want?
It's not what they want. And that's just what I mean about like knowing yourself, is most of the time our answer is about what we think is possible, what we've been told, back to what we talked about at the beginning. Like, no, my parents told me I could be a lawyer or a doctor, and those were the only choices.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of different things that go into that. There is like your ancestral programming, your particular family programming, your country programming, your religious programming. There's so many bits of information that go into defining for us what we think is possible for us, that we don't even notice that we have been influenced by all of these factors, and we think that we know what we want, but we don't.
Well, and we have these like social schemas, that exist around us from birth, right?
Yes.
I mean, so here, I took a little psychology in college. My husband's a psychologist, so I kind of get a little drip here and there. But we do have these like social schemas of like what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be like, who we're supposed to be accepted in whatever, ancestral, familial, whatever schema that we are in at the time that we're in. Especially, I feel like, because I came from a preschool background and really young kiddos, seeing how the influence of all of that schema around them really shapes who they are and who they can't become sometimes. So I understand a little bit about that background. And I like how you said, you're bringing all these things in, because I guess the difference between psychology and spiritual psychology is that psychology maybe doesn't incorporate all of that schema. And so the spiritual part, I'm just learning here, so help me out. But I feel like the spiritual psychologist takes a lot more in-depth analysis of where you're coming from, and like trauma, ancestral, backgrounds, familial, schemas, school, even public school, right? Like what you're taught, things like that will change how we feel like we're supposed to be. I would imagine. So one of my questions that I wrote was, how do you work with clients that have different spiritual beliefs than your own? So like, I know you said you kind of came from a spiritual or religious background, but you're more spiritual, obviously. Yeah. And what if people are kind of like, well, that's woohoo, I don't really believe in that spiritual, because you're going to have people that don't believe in that spiritual background. How do you work with them, especially if they have beliefs that are different than your own?
Well, you don't have to work with me, and I don't have to work with you. We choose each other, and right. It's definitely an important part of it. So most people
have a spiritual inclination. Okay.
Yeah, are coming to me because they're in alignment with what it is that I'm talking about. And so that speaks to them. And if somebody was interested in working with me and we didn't share the same perspective, I am completely open to that. And I would be curious as to like how the work would unfold. And yeah, I would be really open to that, as long as there's a willingness on both sides, to actually just focus on doing the work. I think it's a really important part, if not the most important part, but there are things that can be done, and we don't have to really focus on that.
And would you think that kind of is what delineates like going to a psychologist versus a spiritual psychologist, or a spiritual psychological healer? Or because if you just want a psychologist, there's lots of those, I guess, right? And so if you're looking for like a spiritual healer or a spiritual psychologist, you're probably looking for, it didn't work over here, I need to do more in this space, right? Yeah. So how do you help individuals discover their life purpose or align with their true self? Because that's a question I had after reading all your stuff, because I see all these really awesome reviews that people have reached these apexes of self-mastery, right? And so how do we get there? I mean, how does this happen? Tell me. I mean, it might not just be a one answer, but I kind of want to know, like, what do you do? How do you make this work?
Well, do we get there? I think like that's definitely a journey. And it took me a while to actually get that, because I just thought that was a whole bunch of BS. Like, yeah. We never get there. Life's the journey, like yada yada. As I continue to live it, I really understand what that means. Is there's always another layer. Like there's things I work on myself every day, and there's things that I work on within myself that I'd be like, come on, like I've already worked on this 50 times, literally. How could there be more layers there? But there's still layers there. There's still a resonance, because I came here to break some familial patterns, some ancestral patterns within my particular unit. Mm-hmm. I came here to do big work. That's part of my bigger mission. And so, there might be 100 layers, there might be 1,000 layers. I don't know how many generations this goes back, because there is a science called epigenetics that scientifically that proves all of these things, that we do carry things forth within our lineage, within our genes, within ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so we get to say, it stops here with me, and I'm committed to doing that work. It stops here with me, and I'm doing as much cleaning and clearing as I can do on every little pattern that comes up. So that's just become a part of the way that I live my life. I come up against a trigger, I come up against a pattern, and I immediately begin to start doing clearing work on it. So when I'm working,
when you say doing work on it, what does that mean? Because our customers, our clients, our listeners, they may not understand, like, what does that work mean? Does that work mean meditation, prayer? Does that work mean, I don't know. Numerous things.
All of those things, because we circle back to everything works. And so the work is for you is figuring out what works for you and when. We have tools. We all know tools. We're familiar with them, whether we use them or not. And we have toolboxes, and they're filled with, screwdrivers and levelers and hammers and all these amazing things that we can use. But if you don't know which tool to pick up for which project you're doing, then you're not going to really have success, right? You learn it. You learn it. It's a skill. It's just like that about yourself with all these different modalities out there. We're just not, we think we're doing the work, going back to doing the work. Well, I did it, so I'm doing the work. No. Did you learn about whether or not it was the right thing for you and when to use it?
So
work.
How do you help your clients figure out what daily practices or habits or what to integrate, right? Spirituality wise, into daily practice. I know you said you have to figure out what works, but there's got to be a way to help folks, right? I mean, in doing some of the different modalities, I know what, for me, I don't like. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just I don't like, which maybe is what more I need. But we can talk about that another day. But I do feel like there's things that we're drawn to personally, right? Like the NLP versus breath work, or meditation versus prayer, or whatever, right? Based on your background. How do you help folks integrate that spirituality into like a mental health routine, I guess we could call it?
Well, when I'm working with people, the key element to figuring out what their next step is for them is just me being a really good listener. So I'm listening. So I've trained myself to listen in a particular way. So I'm looking for certain cues or patterns or certain words that you're saying, or just the way that I'm listening is really active.
Okay.
And then in the listening, a lot of things become really clear to me. So the next step, but also asking questions. So in my listening, I then ask you questions because you're the authority on you. I can't tell you anything and I can't make you do anything.
Right.
You, at the end of the day, you have to be the one doing the work. I could sit with you and hold your hand, as all of us that are parents out there know. You could tell your kids to do this, this, and this. You can hold their hand through it. And at the end of the day, we can't make anybody do anything.
My mom used to always say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, I have all these 80s sayings, but it's so true, right? When I had my own kids, I was like, Julie, you can lead them to all the water that you want, but you're not going to make them drink. And sometimes it's like just not leading them at all is the best way, right? And sometimes I've, as a mom, of kiddos that, have different learning styles and all kinds of things, I really had to step back and understand, like you probably have to do as a spiritual healer or a spiritual psychologist, you have to almost let them figure it out and then come to you for the pathway versus the solution, And
that's it. And how the difference is I'm looking to expedite that journey with you, right? So it's not, I'm not necessarily looking to have a lifelong relationship with you. I want to teach you the skills and give you the tools so that you can have them and be doing them yourself. As I said, now I live this, like it becomes a part of my daily practice, my daily being. Like, our journey together should be a short journey because
short
job.
Right? What is short? What does a typical journey with you look like?
To me, ideally, it's a year to 3 years of working together.
So that's lengthy, though. I mean, that's not like overnight success.
Yes, no, it's not overnight success. And can you have overnight success? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's totally possible with me or with somebody else. It's all up to you. The thing is that we have a lot of patterns that we're looking to work through. And so when I say a year to 3 years, we're not working together like every week for 3 years. We've moved to once we get to about 2 or 3
maintenance.
It's maintenance. It's about a month.
Sure.
And then people can choose to work with me longer. And that's a nice thing when it's maintenance, as long as there's growth.
Right.
as long as there's growth, it's my responsibility and their responsibility to work. Are we still seeing growth here? Because I'm always growing as a professional. As I said, I'm always taking a class. I'm always learning something different. So it's possible that we could work together for a long period of time. But I definitely, I need to see that growth because that's my commitment to you. So for the first year, it's about once a week. And then after that, I haven't worked with anybody once a week after a year because it hasn't been necessary.
Cool. I have 2 questions before we tell everyone how to find you and all the things, because I'm super interested in all these types of modalities and work. And I really feel like psychology and even work environments are going in the space of spirituality and like additional spirituality type intervention / help / I don't even know what to call it, but I feel like these modalities are being introduced more and more in the workplace, in healing, in even modern medicine now. Not to where we would probably like it to be, but I think there is this trend of mental health being something that's not taboo any longer, that needs to be worked on, worked through, right? And having the ability, the pathways, the expedition of it, rather than trying to go it alone and figure out all the things. I think the world has embraced, this other side of healing that was suppressed, I think, for a long time. I think it was happening, but it wasn't like the mainstream, Yes. I feel like it's definitely going more towards clients, folks integrating this spiritual journey as part of their self-mastery, their professional and personal and financial lives, which I think before it just wasn't something, if it was happening, it wasn't really talked about, right? It was kind of this, don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone you do that. So 2 things. What are some, I already asked you that one. Sorry. How do you see the future of psychology evolving with the integration of spirituality?
I think you just said it really nicely. Honestly, it's that we are more than our minds. We're more than our bodies. We are so much more than we have been taught or led to believe or accepted. We are one of a kind wonders. I love going over with that and really like pointing that out and saying that to my clients, like, you are a one of a kind wonder.
Yeah, isn't it? It's pretty incredible, for real.
For you. And you're never will be.
Yeah, and like no one
special
is you, right? So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. Lastly, what advice would you give to someone exploring the idea of combining psychological work with spiritual development?
Yes, it's absolutely necessary. That you're going to cap out, psychology is amazing and Western medicine is super cool and there's a lot of value there, and we're more. And there's more, and we get to explore the other parts of ourselves as well, and then start to incorporate and integrate those various aspects of ourselves. And then we're going to find that healing that we're always looking for. There's always that empty feeling, and that empty feeling, what I've found within my own personal experience and working with clients, is that empty feeling is filled with the spiritual part of ourselves.
That's sort of the part that people are missing, I think.
Yeah, and that's why it's we're reawakening. There's more of that movement and leaning into it, is we're realizing, wait a minute. There's more. Wait a minute. I'm amazing. Wait a minute. I'm powerful. Wait a minute. The world obviously is interconnected and there's something greater than me. And I'm a part of something really amazing.
So existential, right? Like so vast. Yeah. It's so cool when you start to think even at a molecular level. Like,
yes,
it drives me. Like, I'm always like, wow, this is crazy. Like, we're acting in space and we're reacting to energy, and like so many people around us have other energies that we need to react to. And just all, like, if you get down to it on a super molecular level, it's very interesting to
cool.
Yeah, to just like be immersed in this other an existential world, from apart from yourself. So, well, I could talk to you for 14 hours. However, you don't have that kind of time. I do want to thank you so much for coming on today. Our listeners, I even stopped putting banners up because I started getting so into it, I lost where we were with that. So, but I do want everyone to know your name. So you can let me know if this is exactly how you spell it or if there's anything wrong.
Yes.
Lainie Love. You can find Lainie Love on Insta, on Facebook, I think. You also have a website. What's your website, Lainie?
So lucky. Lainie.com. What?
Lainie.com, just like that?
Just like that.
Like this?
LAINE.com. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So Lainie.com, that's easy and super lucky. You must have gotten that 45 years ago. Literally, that was a smart move, girl. So Lainie Love, let's put it back up here. They can find you on Insta, Facebook, all the socials, right? I think you're on all the social channels. Yeah. And so if they want to explore this further with you, I think it's the website. You had offered like a 30-minute free kind of consult to get to know what you do and if they're the right candidate, things like that. Is that correct that it's on the website, Lainie?
Yes, yeah, it's on the website. I love talking to people, and they appreciate having the conversation too. It's really important to figure out if we're a good fit for each other, and so I love offering that option, that opportunity to connect, as long as it's available, as long as I have the time to do that. I'm quickly running out of the time to do that, but it's
I
still
love it though. I love that it's available, and I love the whole, talking about the transmutation work, and I've perused a little bit about you, so I have a little knowledge. But what I really like is that you said something about like you're here with a mission and I'm here to help you achieve that mission. So really that's your work. I mean, really that's what you've been put here to do. I believe like your mission, your why is to activate other folks' missions, right? Yeah. Is that kind of, okay. Just wanted to make sure I got all that right. But that's really important work, right? So, I mean, we have to appreciate that your work is very important and you are very busy. So again, I appreciate your time. Anybody that wants to get deeper, have self-mastery, look at, what modalities will work for you in integrating spiritual health into your mental health practices. If you want to achieve self-mastery, I think you should reach out to Lainie and book an appointment if you can, or hop on her website and just see all the things she's doing. And if it speaks to you, then definitely hop on, look her up, follow her on Insta, on Facebook, on all the things. We didn't even get into so much other things about being a mom and all the things, but she's got a lot of cool stuff on her socials that you can follow and definitely connect with on so many different levels. So again, appreciate you so much, Lainie, for being here today. And I'd love to have you back at some point to talk about all the other things we didn't get a chance to talk about today. But
sounds amazing. I'd love to come back.
Yeah. Thanks, honey. Yeah. And so we usually end with a health, wealth, and happiness kind of tip at the end of our podcast. So obviously mental health is important. Please take care of yourselves and find what works for you. Like Lainie said, that could be a variety of things. It could be one thing. It could be, something that you haven't thought of before. So work on finding what works for you. From a happiness perspective, I think mental health equals happiness. It's really important to work as much on the inside as we do on the outside. I feel like the outside is just expected and is a lot easier and we prioritize, but the inside is really what comes out on the outside. So it's important to be healthy inside and to be happy inside. In terms of financials, I mean, there's a whole study based on manifestation of self-mastery through finances and through professional life as well. So I think this can apply to all three of the topics that we discuss here at Glam and Grind, on on a regular. And so, again, just want to thank you, Lainie. Do you have anything else to add to our listeners today, or add for our listeners today that you think we didn't get to, that would be something that you really don't want them to walk away without?
I'd just like to highlight what you just said. We are looking at all of these different areas of our lives, and we would like to have success in all of them. Like, we want to be obviously healthy, because if you're not healthy, you don't really have anything. You want to be doing work that brings you joy and gives you a sense of purpose, and you want to have enough money, or more than enough money, so that you can do whatever it is that you want, fulfill your dreams, because we do exchange money for experiences. Mm-hmm. And so when we do this work, when we're working on ourselves, when we're working on the inside out, we are incorporating all of those aspects. When we just don't sit and meditate and not take care of our body, that's where our spirit lives. We have to take care of our body. And when we do that, we see certain results. And the same thing with finances, with relationships. It is all interconnected. And that's why we get to work on all of the different aspects. So know that when you choose to do the work, that you will be seeing results in every area of your life if you're doing the work.
Doing the work. Just a quick question about your 2 books, because I forgot I had that on here and we kind of skipped over it, which is a really important part. You also have a podcast, right, Lane?
I don't.
Okay. Just on other podcasts. You can find you on other podcasts. Okay, I did see that. But for your books, so there is magic, but there is no magic pill. That one caught my attention. And then you also have how to use hypnosis to master your brain. But that there is magic, but there's no magic pill really stuck out to me, because we are such a pharmaceutical society too, right? Like, oh, there's a happy pill for you and for you and for you. But we're not doing the work to fix what is behind the happy pill. Like, even my teenage girl, she's middle school. There's a lot of challenges that girls go through in middle school, and just relationship wise, things like that. And we're very cognizant of mental health in our family. We talk about all the things. We have courageous conversations all the time. But one of the things that I early on, and this is for listeners to put her into, was a peer group that does mental health work with these kiddos. And I just find, like, sometimes they don't want to talk to you maybe about stuff as well, but having someone that can activate that pathway for them, or that they can just, that can help with them. She's more like NLP. She does a little bit of different modalities. So she's not a full spiritual healer, I don't think, but she's on that process. She has a religious base, but we're spiritual more than religious. So it blends in with just accepting who you are and being the best you can be, and not letting folks, kind of tear that down. But I really appreciate that you, in that book, and I don't know if that's the message of the book, but I really appreciate that you're doing the other side of the healing.
Thank you. And I love that you brought that book up, because that was my first one that I won an award for that's not published yet.
See, so that was the award manifestation right there.
Guidance here. And that's actually the essence of it, is that there isn't one like magical solution from a pill that doesn't require you actually just showing up. But there is so much magic when you learn to see it around you and work with it. So that is coming out. I don't even know when, 2025, 2026. It's a moving target.
Are you publishing that, Lainie?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, if you need someone to help you with that, my publisher that helped us get our book out was awesome. She was great to work with and very much aligned with lots of this stuff. So, but really just kept me on track, honestly, to get it done and get it moved out. I initially thought about self-publishing, but then ended up having a publisher help, and it was very helpful, just because I don't stick to timelines very well. Like, I have to be, told to sit down and write for an hour. So, but I'm sure folks will love it when it does actually come out. And so looking forward, to having that and seeing that.
It's a moving target because it keeps rewriting itself. I have 2 other books that are complete and finished, and they were bestsellers, that How to Use Hypnosis to Master Your Brain, and A Bigger Mission that came out basically this year. I think it came out on the very last day of 2023, but There's Magic But No Magic Pill is more of a story about me. And so it just keeps rewriting itself, and I'm just not ready yet.
That's okay. It will be when it will be time when it's time again. And so the other one was called Magic Mission, you said?
There is a How to Use Hypnosis to Master Your Brain. That was that became my first actually published and released book.
And the other one was?
A Bigger Mission.
A Bigger Mission. Okay.
My work on now is really helping you to step into your bigger mission.
Yeah, I was going to say that's how I feel like that book really speaks to all the things you talked about today, that title. So awesome. Well, get her books, the ones that are published. Force her to get that other one done. If you guys are on social, push her along. I'm sure that we'll love all of them. But again, thank you so much, Lainie, for being here today. And we will support you. Our listeners will support you on your socials and all the things. And we look forward to learning so much more via what you're posting and sharing. And hopefully, some of us will work with you. So thank you again so much for being on, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.